Hello everyone. Today I'm going to introduce to you how to install Oracle database management systems. Actually, Oracle can be available on Windows 10 and Mac operating system 10 and Linux operating systems. As you would see in the Oracle website, they have a full support of installation and software packages for Windows 10, Microsoft Windows 10 and Linux. Mac operating systems it's a little bit not really fully supported in terms of this free software. What I mean by that is we're going to install the Oracle 11G on Windows 10. To do that, you need to download the software from oracle.com, Tech Network, Database, and Database Technologies, and the version of the edition of the Oracle DBMS is the Express edition. It's not even standard edition. It's not Enterprise edition, but it is Express edition. So you need to download it. Download the Express edition of Oracle 11G. Currently, the edition for the Oracle DBMS is a 13C. Okay, 13C, C4 Cloud, G4 Grid version. But actually, grid and cloud computing are the two different terms of the same coin. So it is not really a big difference. The Ubuntu also supported by the Oracle for the edition of 11G. That is possible. On the other hand, the Mac operating systems that you can download it from for the Mac OS. See here, Mac OS and the others all together. You can see many different versions for the different platforms for both Microsoft Windows and the Linux from the same page. But this is something different, and also the version supported for Mac OS is one below than the versions that we are going to work on. So those who have both platforms, Windows 10 or Linux, or even Mac OS, then I want you to install 11G. Okay. For Mac OS, if you have a virtual machine on your Mac OS, then you can install the guest operating systems of Ubuntu. On top, you can install Oracle 11g XE. So that is another possible way that you could do. But if there's no other way that you should do a Mac OS, then there's no other way that you can go with 11G, but only 10G. Another way that you could do is that if you can buy it, that is the different story, right? You have to pay, I think, $1,000 to gain that packages. Then you could have 11 or 13C for Mac version. All right. Let me start with the history of Oracle. In 1977, Larry Ellison and two of his friends, whose name is Miner and Oates, began a company named the Software Development Laboratories in San Jose. And then they developed the Oracle DBMS, which is the product's Oracle after codename project worked at MPAX. That is an earlier story. And Oracle became well known, started to be known by database communities in 1984. Before 1984, IBM has DBMS called the DB2, and some of the small companies has DBMS also. All in relational database. Before we have relational DBMS, which is so-called RDB. We have a network DB and hierarchical DB. Or file-based database. Okay, this was about 1960s and 70s and 80s. Early 1980s, then IBM has DB2, and relational database started selling, and then companies are now try to store data not in file but in database, which is a relational database. Okay. But of course, yes, some companies still save data in file. Some small companies like retail stores, Target. A few years ago, Target customer information was compromised, mainly because the customer data was stored on a file. Then it can be extracted by hacker very, very quickly, right? But if it is stored in relational database, particularly Oracle relational database, then technically there's multiple steps that they need to get into and compromise the data. Data also encrypted, and data may be dispersed, stored in many different locations. Therefore, data compromise is not just simple as you can think in the data in a file system. All right. But anyway, since early 1980, relational database became popular and robust in most platforms. In 2009, between this and that, as I explained in some of the earlier module of this class, after we have a relational database, but we realized there is a gap between the real world models and computer technologies. Real world can be represented in complex modeling tools, but the complexity supported by the modeling tools, for example, entity relationship models, cannot be operational on typical computers, operating systems. Therefore, we need to do, as far as if we have a relational database. So conversion, mapping from conceptual models to a relational database is needed, and the process is called the logical modeling. Okay, that's what we were talking about last time. And therefore, late 1980s, object orientation community started thinking of object-oriented databases. It was really successful, particularly in European countries. France, the leadership was in France. They developed pretty good systems, but the only problem there is the user friendliness. The language that user can use is again so complex. It's not like SQL. It's not like structured query languages. Structured query languages is very, very simple, and a lot of things can be expressed in simple way in SQL. The reason for that is SQL is simply about like calculus language. It's not algebraic language in terms of the language technologies. It's not algebraic, but it is calculus. What I mean by that is SQL language is a declaration language. Still not clear to you? Then declarative language means SQL is a good tool for us to describe, to express what we want. As far as we know what we want, then we can express what we want. We do not need to express how it should be evaluated. For example, Java language or any programming languages, then they are all talking about how to do, right? All detailed sequence of steps needs to be described, right? In the proper sequence. Otherwise, you will have an error or outcome is not accurate. Therefore, SQL is simple, this is what I want. If you say, this is what I want in SQL, then all others can be handled by DBMS. DBMS, which is database management systems. Management system means it is a packages of software packages. It has a lot of software packages available. One of the software packages that you are interested in is security management packages. Another thing for that SQL is optimization packages or translation packages. Since SQL allows you to describe what you want only, which is simple to user, all details needs to be still taken care of by this DBMS. It is an optimizer. What it means is that there should be converted from what you want to all detailed steps of the operations. How to do will be taken care of DBMS. Okay? That's what it is. But object-oriented DBMS is, and because of that, less likely useful to users. Therefore, they want to now combine relational database and object-oriented database together, and then we created a new term called ORDB, right? Object Relational Database. We take the advantages from both object-oriented database and relational database. From relational database, we use the language, SQL language, SQL, user-friendly. Object-oriented database can contribute to this new technologies, the complexity of representation, knowledge representation, which means as we analyze and as we have ER diagram, which can be directly codified in ORDB. We do not need to conversion from ER diagram to relational format. It is so simple. Okay. But anyway, that was a trend of database. But Oracle becomes bigger and bigger, got a lot of profits, and they want to expand their computing powers. So they acquire Sun Microsystems. So Sun Microsystems is the company that I like the most. More than Oracle Corporation. Sun Microsystems is a good company. They developed Java programming languages. So we have JSE, Java Standard Edition, and Java JEE, or J2EE, which is Java Enterprise Edition. All of the products developed by, not all, but most of developed by Sun Microsystems are free. MySQL, that is also free. Sun Solaris system, that is also free. Solaris is operating systems. This is this Solaris is very similar to Linux. Okay, Unix and Linux. And Solaris, Sun Microsystems has a Sun Micros. the workstation, Sun Microsystems workstation, which is hardware. Hardware, yeah, we should purchase. There's a Unix machine, Unix box. That's what we call it. Unix box needs to be purchased. The average price of the Unix box, Sun Microsystems box, early 1990s was about $10,000 average. Some expensive Unix Sun Microsystems Solaris box was, I think, $50 or $100. Some servers, $100. Okay. Anyway, so this is the history. So what you need to do is that you need to download. Okay. Yeah. So meanwhile, you need to download that the proper edition of Oracle DBMS. And there's a documentation available. If you want to, you can read some of the documentation here. Some of the documentation that you can find here is the installation details. As you read, I summarized here a little bit. The limitations of 11G, where 12 and 13C is not free. It's not free. So 11G expression edition is currently free. So we want to use it. Limitation of using 11G. But let me tell you about one thing. 11G expression edition is good for developer. So you do not have to worry about it. 12C, 13C, it's not really much different from the development perspective. But it is strong on services. If you put it on the production systems to serve, let's say, million customers simultaneously, then you need to use 13C. 11G supports only one CPU maximum, but if you have if you run multiple, for example, 11G expression edition and 11G standard edition and 12C some other editions, and also your computer has 4 quad CPUs, then 11G expression edition use 1 CPU, and some other CPUs may be used by some other editions. That is possible. RAM size is only so 11G uses maximum 1 gigabytes RAM. Why the size of RAM is important? I think you can learn it from typical database systems. The physical design of physical database design should think of the size of a RAM. Therefore, depending upon the database characteristics, you need to have a different size of a RAM. Therefore, you need to maximize maximize the performance of the database systems, because index file needs to be loaded on the main memory, right? Although all data instances still stored on disk, but index file should be loaded. Therefore, whatever data on disk can be accessed quick. Otherwise, there's a lot of data latencies. Another thing is 1 gigabyte of user data is available. This is the size of the concurrent, not necessarily concurrent, but the user data. For example, user login name and password and some other informations. So only 1 gigabyte. That is another limit. If we have 1 million users, it's not possible. And listener, built-in HTTP listener is not possible. The language is supported by Oracle. It's Java, of course. Oracle wants Java. .NET, PHP, Python, that is extra. If you read the main page of Oracle database systems, then Python is not described. This is something else extra, right? So we can use this. Python is the language that you can build web servers over Oracle, or Python can access data from the Oracle database systems directly. Either way will be available. We need to install 11 all2, so release 2. This is for Python installation. We're not going to do this today. Okay, installation tipping points. You need to have 11G release 2 ready and extract the zip file when you download the zip file. And then there is a disk 1, so we need to click setup.exe files. You better run it as administrator. I want you to remember all the port numbers that you could see. There's a default port number also, or you can change the port number. If you use the default port number, then there's a security issues, right? Default port number can be known. So if you want to attack any Oracle DBMS, then unless modified, then port number is known, so that you can scan the port number and attack for that port number, right? That is possible. And also you can, while you are installing, at some points the password is requested, so that you need to enter the password. This password needs to be remembered, and that password is the password for the login sys or system. This is administrators' privileges. So as you log in the Oracle database as a sys or system, then you have almighty power. Okay, so this password is very, very important. And then we can once you install, then we can start. This should be done a little later. All right, so let's try to install. See, I have a Oracle XE11 R2 for Windows 64 process. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to unzip and I already had I think I have that here somewhere. Yeah, here already unzipped. So if you click that, and there is a disk 1, and then there's a setup. So if you click the setup, By the way, as I said, if you want to set up as a administrator, then right click on the setup and there's a run as administrator. So let's do this. And then there is a confirmation of that. Okay, and then welcome to 11xe edition. So yes, and then you need to accept. So it will be installed on my C drive, and destination folder name is Oracle exe. So I don't need to change it, but to click next button. And then there is a enter password. This is the password for the sys or system. So you can, I would say, in order not to forget, I can say only Oracle. And confirm, but don't follow this Oracle. But in real systems, for your production systems, you need to put this very carefully, and it's not really attacked by any person, right? So, but this is not the server we are going to use as a local. So that's okay to me. So I put Oracle and Oracle. Okay. And see here, destination folder is that, and Oracle home is app Oracle products 11.2.0 and server. This is Oracle home. This is Oracle base, and then port for Oracle database listener is 1512. So what I'm going to do is I am going to save that. At another place. Okay. This that I need to this. Okay, and install. It takes time. So I'm going to stop and come back. All right. So my Oracle 11G R2 Expression Edition is just installed, if it is successfully installed, what I did is I didn't do anything. I just let it go, and it's completely done. And then the pop-up box disappeared. So what it shows is here. At the end, it says install result complete, and then what you need to do is simply click finish. Okay. So once it is installed, then if you look at the start button in the lower left corner, and click on the all apps, and then go to O where there is Oracle. And then you can see Oracle database 11G expression edition, and it is new. And if you click that, then you can see some of those. There's a backup database and get started expression edition, and go to online forum, read documentation, register for online forum, and restore database. If there is any crash, then you could do restore. In order to restore, then you need to have a backup continually. And then we can do, this is something that we are going to work many times. There's a run SQL command line. And then there is another GUI based the Oracle developers toolkit available, but yeah, we're going to download it and install maybe today after we look at this command line. And then start database and stop database. Once you have this kind of utilities available, then the first thing that you need to do is to start database. Okay. If you want to learn something about expression edition, then you can click on this. But start database, then you need to click this. After you've done this, if you want to stop database, then you need to click this. Right? Otherwise, your Oracle systems keep running, which means it uses memory space and disk space and network. So a lot of resources are will be used. So it is not a good idea. So once you've done, then you can stop database. Okay, so what the first thing that you need to do is to click on start database. Then it says, do you want to allow this? Yes, I want to allow that. Then you can see administrator start database. That's up. And then to see if whether it is properly running, then you need to start the command line evaluation. So click on this. Then you can see SQL statements, right? So what you need to do is let's see if we have any help. Help system not available. Connect and system and Oracle. What it does is that see, this is the slide. What you need to do that is that you need to connect, and then system is the login name, and the name after slash, that is the password. Okay, so I just said the password that I entered was Oracle only, right? System and Oracle, and see how it works. It is connected, right? And then you can test, for example, select sysdate from dual, and every time when you issue SQL statements, it should end with a semicolon, and it returns. Okay, June 12th. Let's try this. Start from EMP employee. EMP is not available. But anyway, table. Select star from all tables. Wow, there's a lot of tables available, right? I shouldn't do that, but I did it. So you have to wait. The bottom line here is that it works, right? Meanwhile, what I'm going to do is that remember that in C drive there is Oracle .exe and app Oracle, and then products, and 11.2. that, and if you go there, the server, then there is a database homepage. Get started online from online help with documents and register. So if you click this, let's see what happens. And then I want to open it using Firefox, for example. Then it asks me to enter username and password so that I can do system Oracle. When I do that, it's an error. So instead of 127.0.0.1, if I change it to localhost, and then again it is not. So another way that we it's done. Another way that we could see is get started. Let's see. Let's see. Open this. did not open this, but can you see the content of this? Sunday 2. But anyway, so well, we'll do that later. The web access is not really the issue that we need to do today. If you want to see, so let's do a little bit more. Table name from user tables, then something that we can see here. That's not something that we want to see, right? If I see all, then those are the table names that we can access. Those tables already developed, we call that catalog database. So catalog database is already developed and created and available for the user to use. All the configuration and all the management data are also stored and managed by catalog database, which is a separate database from the database that you need to install. Okay, there are a lot of tables made. What I want to show here is that there's a table, the sample data. Sample database is sample tables developed. I believe that is employees, and then see maybe jobs, and then departments, locations. So let's try to see. Those are the plural and departments and employees. So what we need to do is select from departments and semicolon. Does not exist. The case is not really sensitive in our database, so we don't have to worry about that. Trying to see the table names that we found out a few minutes ago. Departments and employees. The employee. Table is not available. It does not exist. Okay. Another thing that we could do is, so we'll get back to that. So I need to figure out why it is not available. We want to see the database, table constraints, a table definition. Table that we looked at, the previous was, see here, that all tables, right? All tables is this all tables is kind of the table that we looked at. In such case, we can see what is the description of how that was defined. Then we can say describe all tables. Then it can show it has an owner name, table name, table space name, and so on and so forth. Okay. So if we want to see owner only, then we can say select owner and table name from all tables. Yeah. And you can see this is owned by system. So anything that owned by system or sys can be accessed by you, system. So all of these are owned by system. Some CTX sys. Some are extra cartridge for the DBMS. Apex. Table and owner, but you can see this is some of the security issues, right? Who owned what, and therefore who can access. So we'll look at that. That is an access control mechanism. Trying to see once more department and employees. See how. Let's see. Let's see if you can see user dollar. User dollar. Users. Cannot be shown. Something about that dollar sign. So what do we have? As I said, those are the tables defined by the Oracle and will be used by the DBMS while you are using. So, but of course, if some of the file that you defined, there's yours, so you can see it with no issue at all. Strange. You've seen it before. Why you don't have that? What was tables? Or start from TBA users. Not all, but username, password from that, and DBA users, there's a sys system. Those are all DBA users. So HR is one of those. Okay. In the table of DBA user, if you create a database administrator user in the table, then it is stored here. Select, well, this is SQL. I'm glad that Oracle 11g XE is successfully created, installed and is ready for us to use. So I want you to have this, and then if we want to create a database, then for example, create database, and then homework 2, then what happens? Database already mounted. I want to create database. So what you need to do is, let's see. Need to use, I don't know why, Google Oracle create database manually. creating Oracle database, statements. Instance identifier, SID needs to be, created. Therefore, it's not just a simple so if we do not that, then create table as, for example, user varchar 5 ID varchar 2 and validity statements. I'll give you later. Okay? Bye. Quit. Okay. And then okay, now if you come to, for example, this folder, this directory from Oracle exe of the C driver, and the app subdirectory Oracle products 11.2.0 and server. And there is a database homepage. If you click this, then actually there's an error, so it's not going to work because that is somehow mismatch with the IP address. To know that IP address, if you click get started file, right click on it and then see the property, and there's a general and web documents, and then in the web documents there is a 1270.0.0.1. Actually this URL is not really available, so what you need to do is that highlight it and copy it by Ctrl C, and then come back here. If you paste it, and instead of the specific IP address, can type it localhost and click enter, then you will have let me close this. Then this is a database web page. What we want to do is that here Application Express. Click on that Application Express, and then username is system and password. I made it Oracle and login. And then if you want to use a new database user, then you can put here database username application express username. What I created previously was that I put here Mercy, and then application express username, also Mercy, and password, Oracle and Oracle for confirmation, and then I create a workshop. But because I did that, and then I, instead of creating new, I can come back here to say already have an account, then I can log in here. Okay, then workspace is Mercy, username is Mercy, and password I put again Oracle and login. All right. So I am in Oracle database web page and database web Oracle homepage of my system. Okay. So one thing that we would like to see today is SQL workshop tab on top. This is drop down menu, and what we want to see today is first two options. Let's start with the object browser. Click on that. Then actually I can see let's say the last two table. This is a table. I can see the tables and triggers and some others. Right now there's a table. So if I click DEPT for department, then I could see the table description. This is table description. I can add column, modify column, and then I could do something for the definition of that table. If I want, this table, as you can see, has 3 columns, right? Type of those 3 columns is that number, variable character, and the nullable. Department number should not be empty. There's a non-null constraint is specified for the DEPT number. So when you create new data, then you should have that. Based upon the definition of this table, data already populated. Click on the data, then 3 of those are populated, right? We can insert a new row if you want. Okay. Similarly, EMP, employee, we have a few employees already available. So table definition of that employee is this. It is an employee number and employee name, job, manager, salary information, and all of those. And at the end, finally, we have DEPTNO. This DEPTNO, right here on this table, EMP, is just a regular attribute. But when you come to this DEPT, then DEPTNO is non-null, right? And also that is a primary key. The primary key in one table appears in another table. They're not a primary key. Here in this table, employee, the primary key is EMPNO. So DEPTNO is appearing in those 2 tables, as primary key at one table and as regular at another table. What that means here is that it is called the referential constraints. Example for that is DPT data. If we see the data, then department number is 10 to 40, right? 10, 20, and 30, 40. But EMP, if I want to insert a row, let's insert a row, employee number, I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and employee name is John, job is sales, manager is Adam, higher rate and whatever. I don't do that, but department number, if I say 90, which is not available, right? Then see what happens. Here I want to create, and definitely they should have something coming up. Error happens, column not allowed here. Just column not allowed here. So message is not really clear, you know. It should say, because I do not have that, then referential constraint is violated. Insert to row, you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then create another error. Value larger than specified, the precision show the, maybe this is still one error. But anyway, sorry, it's not clear, right? But if I want to enter by looking at the PT, say sales is 30, 30 is the department number, sales department, and so that come back here, the employee, try to see if it works. Employee is 3333, and employee name is James, and department number is 30. See what happens. Somehow it's not allowed. Value larger than specified precision. Oh, department number. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Employee number. So table employee number 4. Okay, employee number 4. This is all right. So let's see here. Employee is let's try 4 numbers, and this is the 30, and James. Oh yeah, that is created. So there's a James, or employee number that is automatically created, and then James and department number is 30. That is created, right? This is available through this GUI, but there is another way that you could do is SQL command line. So if you click this command line, then you can see here command, right? So for example, select star from what? From EMP, semicolon, then after that click run, then you can see James again, right? You could see that. So you can come back and forth to some more. So in this case, if you want to create a table, then you can create more. So table name is we have employee and department, and what else that we could do is item products, and then column name is item name. Type of item name is a bar chart, and we can say 10. It should be not null, and price. And price for that is number. Scale 3, precision 2. Okay, and then we did that. Next, primary key, no primary key, fine. Foreign key, no foreign key. Constraints, see here in this order. Constraints, no constraints, and then I can say conform. Creates. So that is created. Okay. So we can put here insert row, item number is that is automatic, price is 12.99, and then we can create. Item name. Name is what is the name? Pencil. And then 9.99. Create. Value larger than specified precision. Let's see. Item. Table. 10. So data, insert, and create. Let's change this. Can you modify color? Item name. Next. Cancel. Okay, then add column name. I don't want it. Simply let's do like that, and then add data and insert call. Then I can say pen. See what happens. It should be created. That is created. So we have a pen, note. That's created, right? And then later, if you want, you can add more. What if I add a column? And then you can say price. There's a number precision. I do not want to do anything. Just number. Yes. Then data here. I can do cancel price 999 creates, yeah, something like that. Then we have employee, department, and item. When I come back here, command line, and I can do select star from items. Yeah, we have that. All right. This is something that you can practice. All right. We'll continue to do this.